It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Be sure to go to follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. Whether you're listening over on the listening platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or you're watching us over on YouTube, go check out the link that we have in the description of the show. We've got a Facebook link to Everything Custom Designs. It's our friend Haley Wagner's small business. She can hook you up with some customized clothing and even hook you up with some customized Around the 412 merchandise. So if you want to check that out, go click on that Facebook link and hit her up. She can hook you up with some really good stuff. This is the Around the 412 Pirates show. We're a little under 2 weeks away from opening day. Oneil Cruz is continuing to rake in spring training, which is a pleasant surprise considering last season was abruptly halted by a devastating ankle injury for Oneil Cruz. Says it feels like 200% to him, which is something that you definitely want to hear as a Pirates fans. 5 home runs in spring training so far. So overall, still mixed feelings every single time that we think about a Pirate season starting, but there's some good signs to it too.
I think we've talked like at some point in every Pirates episode that we've done this spring that there's just like a general sense of hope this year, or like at least excitement, maybe not hope overall, but a sense of excitement to watch the team. I feel like most people's thoughts, oddly enough, on the Pirates are all very similar. Like, we're excited about the lineup and have a lot of trepidation with the rotation. I think that a lot of people share that exact same sentiment. So yeah, with Oneil Cruz, what he's done this spring, coming back from the ankle injury, saying he feels 200%. I didn't really have, the bat, right? Like being where it's at already, like that's something that normally takes so much time to get the timing down, and he's missed so much time. So I wasn't sure in spring training if we would see it at all, or let alone early in the regular season. And that's not to say like 100% this is going to carry over with him from the spring when we kick off the regular season, but like it's very good sign. It's better than the opposite of this, where he's absolutely terrible at the plate and looks bad in the field. Like this, the alternative is much worse than what we're seeing. Of course, we have to see it translate to the regular season, but like my bigger concern would have been defensively, I think, than the bat. His lateral movement because of the ankle. How quick is he getting side to side? Obviously, not the arm or anything like that. But yeah, like the mobility side of things, playing the shortstop position was really going to be my bigger question. But like the games that have been televised, I've watched, and he looks fine to me. Like he looks like his old self. And he's one of the reasons, I think, maybe the biggest reason that there is so much excitement, because we lost all of last year. He appears to be healthy going into this year, as healthy as he possibly could be. And in my opinion, the team around him got a little bit better too. So like, I'm curious how that translates with a little bit more lineup protection as well.
Yeah, I think that, and it's funny because a couple weeks ago I was scrolling on TikTok and I saw this, and I actually might have brought it up on here before, but it just echoes that what you were saying of how everybody kind of feels the same way about the Pirates this year. It was like a John Boy clip from their podcast, I think, of somebody talking about the Pirates for the season. Yeah, exciting lineup, but they're probably not going to be very good overall. And a lot of that depends on their pitching staff and the rotation more specifically. We've echoed that the bullpen we have a lot more confidence in than the rotation. So there's a lot to be proven there. But yeah, I think that Oneil Cruz being back and looking really healthy, it's good that it's this early. We'll see if it continues into the regular season. I mean, I know looking at past spring trainings, that doesn't necessarily translate to the regular season once that kicks off. But it's still good signs, like you were saying, that he could have taken a lot more time to recoup and get used to playing at game speed again. And it doesn't seem like it took him any time at all. And he's back to the athletic freak that he is, which is going to be really fun to watch. Hopefully he and the rest of the lineup can stay healthy. I know for this episode, since there wasn't a lot outside of just some spring training games, we were going to do you're going to have a little over under game for me, kind of like what I did with you last week for a show. We're going to talk, or for the Steelers show, we're going to talk about over unders on this Pirates show.
Yeah, and this is not just for you. This is for everybody watching or listening as well. I want their opinions on these things too. You could say, why are you guys doing this now? We've got 2 weeks till the season. Do it on a predictions episode. you know what? I'll be honest. We were sitting here 2 minutes before we started recording. We were like, what in the world are we going to talk about with the Pirates?
It
So
was weird because
we're
we
doing it.
feel obligated to talk about them. We're in spring training. We're 2 weeks away from opening day, but
Yeah, but
there's
really
honestly
nothing's
not a
happened
ton of
within
news.
we're not going to talk about like the results of the games. And to be honest with you, I mentioned that I've been able to watch games that were on TV, but like I haven't caught a whole lot of live Pirates baseball recently. I'm just following it on my phone. So I don't have anything based off the games. They did sign Eric Lauer to a minor league deal. You know, maybe he makes the club out of spring training. I'm not sure. But yeah, other than that, this is what we want to do. I do want to ask you one question before we play this though. Some pitching prospects. So they sent some guys down. They've been sending guys down in waves. But one guy that is still in big league spring training is Jared Jones. And we've talked about him before. He's also not part of that rookie or that prospect showcase that they're doing with the Orioles or whatever, which is the time recording this is tomorrow. So everybody else that's a Pirates top 10 prospect is involved in that. Does that tell us Jared Jones is making the big club?
We talked about it a little bit last week, and there were signs pointing to that. We didn't know if it was just going to be some saving face and having a guy stick around, or if this was a legitimate possibility. It's looking to me like it's a more legitimate possibility, which is awesome for us. Friend of the show, Jared Jones. Go check out the old YouTube clip.
Yep. From when he was like 17. Yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely tell he's 17 too if you watch it. But yeah, no, I think that it's also the Pirates knowing their strengths and their weaknesses, which is a good thing. I think that they're realizing, and I talked about this with why I think they kept Paul Skeens up with the MLB club through spring training and how they might still try to use that Super 2 and get the service time with Paul Skeens, but they are aware of their weaknesses of the team and know that they could need a starting pitching rotation guy come April or May. So they want guys to be ready. I think that makes total sense. And this one, I think it's also them still being aware of their weaknesses. Their rotation was not set in stone going into spring training. They had to figure that out as they geared toward opening day. They did not have a back end of the rotation guys. So, I mean, really, after Mitch Keller, you can make an argument that none of the guys were necessarily set in stone at where they're at in that rotation because there was just a bunch of question marks in it. And are we really going to say that we are dedicating a spot to like Bailey Falter over Jared Jones, but just because he was rostered at the MLB year last year? No, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, and another guy brought up Rowanzi has struggled in spring training. So, like, to me, there's definitely a spot there for the.
And looking at Rowanzi, looking at what Quinn Priester did last season in his MLB like debut and in his stint at the MLB level, it's not surprising to me that they look at what they have and know that if they've got something from this kid, they need to play him because it gives you the best opportunity to win if he's going to do that. So I think it makes total sense if they're going to have him start at the MLB level. I mean, he had a cup of coffee at AAA last year. I think he was there for like a month, but I don't really care about that. And maybe other people do, but keeping guys in the minor leagues for a longer time and developing them more. But if he's better than who you have at the MLB level right now, then he should be in that rotation.
I agree. Okay. So let's go through this. Like I said, just some fun little game. You guys should play along at home too, everybody watching or listening. We'll start with some home run props here. Jack Suwinski, over or under 20. How many did he have last year? About 30?
Jack Suwinski had 26 homers last year.
26. Okay. Actually, I was just saying, so we'll go a little bit higher. Over or under 28 and a half.
Oh, that might be a little too rich for my blood. If we were talking like 26 and a half, then I would definitely hammer the over. But now you got me thinking about it. Because, I mean, Jack Suwinski, for as much as I like to think that he's like 28-year-old, he was 24 last year. Like, for some reason, he's older in my mind than what he actually is. So 25 this season, still in the prime physicalness of his career. If he can figure out the average and just get on base more, he could be a very serviceable player for this team, a very productive player for this team. And I know that doesn't really affect his home runs, but in a way, I do think it does. That if he can figure out how to make contact more and get the ball and play more, I think that would translate a lot to more to home runs. What'd you set it at? 28.5?
28.5.
I'll be optimistic because I think that he's going to be the main source of home runs. Him and O'Neal Cruz. If O'Neal Cruz has a full healthy season, I'll say over.
Because...
I will say over. It might just be a hair over. Like he might literally get 29, but I do think that he's progressed with some of his batting. I think that could continue this season, and he's going to be one of the main sources for the Pirates to hit it out of the ballpark.
Home runs also for this one. You mentioned O'Neal Cruz. His prop right now is 24.5. It actually moved from 22.5 just a couple days ago, but it's now at 24.5.
I'm nuking that. 24.5. That is insane to me. 24.5 to me is saying that he's going to get injured partway through the season, and you're wondering if he's going to make it through the entire season. I am nuking that. O'Neal Cruz is hitting 30 plus this year.
I like it. Steals, O'Neal Cruz. Okay, so he's coming back from the ankle, but this is like a heavy thing that people are talking about. I think he even said he wants to be like a 40-40 guy, or maybe even said 50-50, like he was shooting for the moon this year. We're going to be a little bit more conservative on this. I'm going to say over under 25.5 steals for O'Neal Cruz.
Oh, man. That's tough because I honestly just I don't think about the Pirates stealing all that much. Like I feel like across the
G1
league,
Bay last year. Yeah.
They're not a team that steals a ton. Maybe a healthy Cruz makes that a little different. Those long strides get you across the diamond quicker. What'd you say, 24.5?
25.5, I think.
25.5. I'm gonna say under. I just feel like that's because the Pirates don't send guys all that often.
Yeah, and like you said, maybe they are a little bit more conservative with him coming back. If I felt like G1 Bay was going to be a fixture in this lineup, really, I might include him as a second steals prop, but Cruz is the only one that I have for the steals here. RBIs over under 82.5 for Bryan Reynolds.
Let's see. Last year he was at 84. And he was at 84. His OPS last year was 790. 82.5. I mean, if he beat it last year, I think he's gonna be at least the same, if not better this year. I'll say over for Bryan Reynolds. I mean, it's very obvious that he's like the cornerstone of their lineup, and I think that especially he did get on base at a clip of 330 clip last year. If he can improve that batting average from last year, he was batting 263. I think if he was still able to hit that over last year, I think he's definitely going to hit it this year.
All right. Basically the same question, but different number for Jack Suwinski. RBIs over under 77.5. I believe he had 74 last year.
He had 74 last year.
Yeah.
I'm going to say over on that one as well, because I'm thinking that he's going to improve his batting overall, not just his homers, but I think that the average is going to come up as well. And so I feel like I would be kind of putting my foot in my mouth if I said that I think that he's going to get better, but somehow he's going to get less RBIs, unless all of his home runs are single shots. I mean, that's I feel like that's the only way possible that he gets worse in that category. But if I'm thinking he's going to get better with the bat, then I think that the RBIs are definitely going to stay at least the same and improve a little bit as well.
Mitch Keller ERA over under 3.75.
What was his ERA
last year? It ended up being over 4 last year because down the stretch wasn't that great.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say under 3.75. He got his contract. There's no stress on him to worry about that and it hanging over his head. And I feel like it's, even if no one actually says it out loud, he knows that the Pirates are really relying on him to carry this rotation, especially in the early parts of the season. I feel like he has improved ever since he came up for the first time at the MLB level. He's improved a ton from that. And based off of the good things we saw last year, I think that'll be a continuation. I think that he's going to be the ace of this rotation. I think, I mean, and honestly, for the expectations I have of O'Neal, or not O'Neal Cruz, Mitch Keller, and what Pirates fans I feel like expectations are, I feel like 3.75 isn't that low of an ERA to achieve for what we think Mitch Keller has the capability of doing.
Okay, I like it. Number of innings pitched for Paul Skeens. Over under 99 and a half.
Hold on, I need to do some math here real quick. Let me break out my calculator. So 99 and a half. If I divide that, let's say I'll be generous and say that he's reaching six innings in his his starts. I mean, maybe I really say generous because he hasn't thrown a single pitch at the MLB level, so I have no idea. That means that he would have if he's averaging 6 innings per start, that's a little over 16 and a half starts at the MLB level to reach 99 and a half innings pitched. How many starts did a guy like? Okay, so Mitch Keller had 32 starts last. So we're looking at like basically half of a full season. I think he hits that.
Okay.
Because I think at minimum he's going to be up here in June, and you're less than halfway of the season at that point. I definitely think he hits that, and I think that in part of that too is I think that the rotation is still going to be a disappointment up to that point in the season. At least a handful of guys might be. They're going to bring up Paul Skeens to be an everyday starter or not everyday starter, but everyday rotation guy. And who knows? I like I said earlier, I think there's a chance that he could be up prior to June, but I think that they're going to hold off hoping that they can bring him up in June. But I still think there's a possibility, just because he did stay with the MLB club through spring training and wasn't part of those early send downs to like AAA, that I think that he's going to have the opportunity, depending on how the MLB starters look, to have the opportunity to come up earlier than expected.
Well, speaking of the other starters, this is the last one that I have, and there's a reason behind it. Marco Gonzalez, over under 125 innings pitched. He's coming back off that nerve injury. There's some question about, is he going to be able to rebound from that?
I will say he gets over that, because I feel like he's going to pitch majority of the season. Like, he'll be a starter majority of the season. So
Yeah.
if he's there the majority of the season and gets like 28 plus starts, 26 plus starts, he's not having to average long games as a starting pitcher to be able to hit that mark. So I would think he hits over that.
Yeah, it's going to be about health for him, I feel like, as well, for him to stay healthy. I think that's it. That's all I got.
I like it. I feel like I feel like I was pretty optimistic with some of my answers.
Yeah. Other than we like thinking O'Neal Cruz is going to be running freely on the base paths, but
yeah. But other than that, I mean, my answers I feel like kind of reflect how a lot of us feel about the Pirates season. Like, where there's a air of optimism, like you were mentioning at the beginning of the show. I think that,
and I think there
reasons
could be
to have optimism.
There could be a lot more optimism in an area that we're worried about if Jared Jones does start in the rotation and looks good, and then you can at least bide your time until Paul Skeens gets here in the summer. So we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I do think there is like a general sense of optimism surrounding this team right now, and hopefully it stays for longer than a month or two this year. So I think that does it. As Tyler mentioned, be sure to check out the link in the description of this show for everything custom designs. Our friend Haley Wagner's small business. Do yourself a t-shirt, hoodie, pretty much anything that you want clothing wise, except for hats, but does a lot of custom work. I'm assuming it's just a few days away now. So St. Patrick's Day, probably out the window, but Easter early this year at the end of March, I think you can still get on that. And also above Tyler, if you were watching on YouTube, you see the logo for Teats Barbershop. They've been our sponsor since day one, our friend Christian Circle. If you are anywhere in the area, Teats Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2, Beaver, PA, 15009. You will not want to go to any other barbershop once you step foot in Keats Barbershop. Old school vibe, good people. Drink a beer while you're in there. I mean, they got a fridge with beer in it for the customers. So it's a cool place. There's even like a separate lounge. So Keats Barbershop, like I said, 401 Burkage Way, Suite 2, Beaver, PA. Check it out if you're anywhere in the area. Christian, Tony, they do good work. So go check them out. For Tyler, for Smitty, this has been the Around the 412 Pirates show. Be sure to check out our Penguins and Steelers show this week as well if you are into that. If not, we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.